First Takes next and final stop on the fall HBCU tour will be at Bethune-Cookman. That show will be Thursday, November 20th. So Bethune, show up, show out. We're looking forward to it. To the NFL, after struggling for most of the season, the Ravens finally back on the right track. Lamar Jackson returned last week from his 3-game absence to lead a dominant performance against the Dolphins. Now Baltimore will look to continue their win streak against the Vikings, who upset the Lions in Week 9 after getting their own quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, back from injury. And so, are you concerned that the Ravens will get now upset, though, by the Vikings? This game's not in Baltimore. RC, what do you think?
You know what? I am concerned. I don't believe it'll happen, but you have to be concerned. When you watch the film of what Brian Flores was able to do to Jared Goff last week, it was absolutely phenomenal. The pressure he put on him in the middle of the pocket, making Jahmyr Gibbs a blocker instead of someone that releases on third down. It was a masterful performance by him. But that's the only thing that scares me. When you look at J.J. McCarthy right now, as he's still trying to get an understanding of the NFL game, he's played 2 good quarters and 1 pass. That's what we've seen from him. And so now with Kyle Hamilton moving closer to the line, Zach Orr really figuring out how to use him as a chess piece, and the acquisition of Alohi Gilman, this defense has been on the rise for the last 3 weeks. And I think J.J. McCarthy just still isn't in a place right now to attack them or Lamar Jackson, who has a stellar record against NFC teams.
Stephen A?
Maybe the Vikings will give us a reason to be concerned. I just don't find myself very concerned about them for the Ravens for this game. I think that when you think about Brian Flores and what he's able to dial up, RC, Cam, I harken back to 2021 when Brian Flores was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Yes, I'm mentioning that because he should still be a head coach in this league. But I'm thinking about him, and I'm thinking about how he dialed up the blitz against Lamar Jackson and made life a living hell for Lamar back then. And when Lamar defers to what he has become, particularly under duress when he's blitzed, and how much better he is compared to what he used to be, he brings up that experience that he had against Brian Flores' defense. So he's familiar with this man and how this man is going to bring the rain and going to bring the heat. And Lamar Jackson's a better quarterback because of it. I think about Lamar and what he's going to do. I'm also thinking about Baltimore and how Baltimore's only given up 13 points or so over the last few games, and they forced so many turnovers. And then I'm thinking about J.J. McCarthy. He's still a rookie, y'all, in terms of his play. He's 2-1 as a starter. He's only completing 58% of his passes, which is lowest amongst, quarterbacks with at least 3 starts. Only 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 14 sacks, which is the worst sack percentage among quarterbacks with a minimum of 3 starts. I think Baltimore can get to him. I'm just not worried about Minnesota in this game.
Yeah. When you look at the gameplay of a J.J. McCarthy, the thing that sticks out to me, he still has that look of uncertainty a little bit. And when you have as many games started as he does, you are reminded that he's still a rookie with his experience. Well, when you play an intimidating lineage of a team like the Baltimore Ravens, these things is what kind of gives you heartache at night. When you start to think like, oh, I'm playing Baltimore? You don't know from whoever came before to things that they're there now, and you start to think to yourself like, am I playing the Baltimore Ravens defense or am I playing Lamar Jackson? These things show up in J.J. McCarthy's play, even though he has the best receiver in the game. And even that has been something that's been kind of a head scratcher because his numbers have dropped dramatically, this particular year. So I'm not worried that the Minnesota Vikings can potentially, give the Baltimore Ravens an upset, even though the record, will say anything different. I'm just expecting the Baltimore Ravens to take this game and other games moving forward to really find their footing and their traction as the season goes on.
I mean, we still have to remember, as the team, not just J.J. McCarthy, as the team, the Minnesota Vikings went into Detroit and won the game.
Yep.
That's an extremely difficult place to do so. And so just think that all the problems of the Baltimore Ravens are fixed automatically right now. I think that's a bit presumptive. And so, yes, the Baltimore Ravens have to go play their best ball to get this win in Minnesota.
It feels like the defense is fixed, though. Through the first 5 games, that defense was the worst in the NFL. The last 3 games, they've only allowed 1 passing touchdown, so they're going in the right direction. The game of the week, though, it's going to be Monday night, right? When the Packers and the Eagles square off. Find out why someone here thinks this is absolutely a must-win game for Green Bay. Also, Mac Jones, major test against Matthew Stafford and the Rams. Find out why someone thinks maybe San Francisco is on the verge of a quarterback controversy.
For me, I want to forecast that the Pittsburgh Steelers find a way to win. What we saw from Terrell Austin's defense, What we saw from Terrell Austin's defense last week was phenomenal. He had a great game plan. He understood how he'd be attacked. And I felt like, to me, in my opinion, we've seen so much good from a guy like he's talking to me. Okay, yeah. I'm going to get. We've seen so much good from a guy like Aaron Rodgers. And so now I want them to win the AFC North. And in order to do that, they have to find a way to win this week against the Chargers with 2 games left against the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, way to go, Miss Cleo.
That's a fascinating game. Peter, give me a Friday forecast as we see J.J. McCarthy taking on the Rams.
I've got the Vikings beating the Ravens. And I don't know if it's J.J. McCarthy who does it or his alter ego, 9. I don't know if you saw that. He says he goes into a different mode when they need him most. And he changes personalities. Well, they're at home. This is a huge win last week in Detroit. You talked about Miss Cleo. I'm going to go with more Oz the Mentalist with that Michigan connection. This is it. I think J.J. finds a way in Minnesota.
What are the right things to say about J.J. McCarthy? I feel like I constantly need to remind people. He has played 3 games.
Right.
So this would be the equivalent of a rookie playing the last week of September, but he's doing it with the ultimate microscope.
This is the biggest gamble that any organization has taken in a long time. Remember, they had Daniel Jones and they had Sam Darnold in the building. They went out and said, we don't need any insurance. We believe in J.J. McCarthy. And the guy that's taking the biggest hit is Justin Jefferson, who's one of the best receivers in the league, but he doesn't have a quarterback that's sophisticated enough right now to be able to read defenses and be able to take advantage of this great roster that they have.
We also have to be fair to J.J. McCarthy, though, right? Like, we can't cast aspersions and say this is who he is and who he will be. We got to watch Caleb Williams for an entire year start to build and become himself. We got to see the same thing for Drake May. J.J. McCarthy doesn't. And I get it. His microscope is bigger because of what Daniel Jones is doing in Indianapolis, because of what Sam Darnold is doing in Seattle. But when you decide to pick him in the top 10, you basically make that decision for yourself. And Sam Darnold had played well enough where he wasn't going to sit around and wait for J.J. McCarthy to take his position.
It's also a sign of respect when you think about it, because in Atlanta, no one cares about the Penix Cousins thing because they're not winning. Minnesota is respected, so that's why there's the
difference is Minnesota, out of all these other quarterbacks you mentioned, is the only team that if they had Sam Darnold on their team right now, we would say that they are Super Bowl front runners. That's the problem. Everybody's ready to win a Super Bowl, but maybe the quarterback is the only thing that can hold them back.
What can he possibly do to erase that? What could he possibly do for us to say?
He has to raise.
He has to be better than Darnold? Last week he went into Detroit and found a way.
He threw for 140. Found a way. The
3rd and 5. He made the play.
It's about for J.J. McCarthy, and this is my opinion. For J.J. McCarthy, it's not about how much he wins. It's not about bringing his team to an NFC championship. It's about showing growth. It's about showing that you can be the franchise quarterback. This team doesn't win a Super Bowl this year, period. You can watch him play, and you know that. And so even last week was an anomaly because this is what happened. Brian Flores figured out if I can get Jahmyr Gibbs to stay in the backfield and block, I can win. So he brought inside pressure. That was about Brian Flores, not J.J. McCarthy. How many times can you do that down the stretch?
All right, it's an interesting one because to your point, that they are measuring him the way we measure some of the other rookies, but he's in a different situation than they are. That isn't his making, but it is his lot in life. Let's keep going with Friday forecasts because we got a couple of young quarterbacks this weekend. Bart, what are you forecasting?
Well, I'm looking into my Magic 8 Ball, and I'm saying that, listen, Jackson Dart is doing more with less than any other young quarterback in the NFL. I think it's not a lot to be happy about in New York, but this is one of the things. He has had a bright future. He may save some jobs when you think about Shane, you think about Dayball, because he's just that talented. On the other side, Caleb Williams has everything that you can ask for as a quarterback, and he's underwhelming us.
All right, so I like that one. We don't have time to dive into it here, but I will get back to it later. Joe, give us one, RC. You're going to like